company will succeed if they position themselves in a tailwind. And if there is a tailwind, it will push you with minimum energy as a company. But if you're going against the wind, and that will create a lot of buffer, a lot of burn, a lot of challenge. And we're doubling down on these difficult things because not everyone daring to kind of go and do them.
It's almost like playing the role of a chief economist, seeing the
True.
future.
Exactly. That's my job, is to actually understand how the economy is going to work at a macro level, at a micro level, and how my company fit in that equation. And this earth is almost kind of 30 million kind of years. You wouldn't remember the people that 100 years ago walking the street. So I think zooming out from your life, understanding you're nobody is a good kind of meditation point for you.
Hello everyone, welcome to Loving Life Conversation Series, People Who Change the World. Today we have Mohammed, co-founder and CEO of Sari. Welcome, Mohammed.
Nice to meet you, thank you.
We're shooting in Dammam, and we were just talking about here how much people want an entrepreneur experience, and then it comes to Sari. And you have an interesting background. You grew up here, and then you went to Canada to study, and you come back. Can you share what are the key drivers of you coming back to Dammam after an overseas experience?
Yeah, so there was an opportunity to go to Canada through scholarship program, and I had that opportunity to go and study. What brought me back is not just Dammam, but there was a lot of entrepreneurial opportunity. I joined Careem, that later got acquired by Uber. So I found it an interesting opportunity for me to join, to learn entrepreneurship and build a new startup and experiences with someone else. So I came back 2016. I had that journey for about 2-3 years, and that equipped me to go build my own venture. Now, deciding where to base the business, I think we looked on the landscape in Saudi, and we decided there is a lot of concentration in Riyadh, and there wasn't choice of kind of startup for talent here in Dammam. I grew up and raised in Dammam, and the only choice for you here as a kid is to go for oil and gas company. So the route for you is to be a petroleum engineer, to go and work in this company. But if you are a software engineer, if you're information technology background, or even a business, or would love to work in tech startup, that choice was not available. So we decided to make that choice and hopefully become a vocal point for a lot of startup can build around that community. So that's why we're here. And what brought me back, I think opportunity. Being in Canada as well, sometime in the US, I've seen a lot of innovation happen, and I think there is a lag of 5-10 years. And coming from kind of the future, is there are a lot of learning that you want to apply and change and disrupt to a lot of norm within the country.
Yes, I know what you mean. I was with Mazen from ZID the other day. I told him I joined Shopee, which is the largest e-commerce in Southeast Asia, and because you see the innovation in the retail side in China, and then you can bring back that experience. And out of all the ideas in the roles, you were with Korean, which was acquired by Uber. Why Sari? Why B2B experience in Saudi and MENA region?
Yeah, I think when we started, so they said entrepreneur always have that naivety. So when we started Sari, the whole idea is a lot of whys. Is that why would they go buy grocery item expensive almost 2x when I go buy the same item in the wholesale and it's like 7-10 kilometer different. The same thing you do experience in your 7-Eleven versus Costco. It's almost 4 or 5 times, and you would ask why there is a difference, why the prices aren't accessible for everyone. So we started asking this question, and there wasn't Costco model here in Saudi. So if you go to the wholesale market, it's in this industrial format. So it's a warehouse, you cannot access, and if you access, it's purely for one category. It's like only soap. And if you want to buy shampoo, you go to another wholesaler. If you want to buy food, you go to a third one. And you need to go to almost a 20 wholesaler, and that would take you 6 to 10 hours just to finish the shopping. And we said, there is something to be done here. And when we started, we thought, can we do a Costco model, but without building brick and mortar? Can we do it as an e-commerce? Coming from Kareem and seeing you can build an empire of limo company without owning a car, I thought, why not? And so we went and we signed all the wholesaler in Saudi and said, if you buy, we will let wholesaler deliver, or we deliver to you. So that was the start. And as we grew, COVID came, and a lot of the brand that supply to the wholesaler said, why don't you buy from the factory directly? And we went to work with them, and they said, why are you just delivering to the people? Why don't you deliver to businesses? And we started delivering to the businesses. Then some of the small factory, as we said, we want to work with you. Then they grow to a level that they don't have enough cash flow to grow. And they said, can you help us, finance us to buy raw material to? And eventually we realized we're not a Costco. We have a bigger mission, is how can we help the whole supply chain to be better? And the more we dig on the supply chain and trying to find raw material for that small manufacturer, we found the seller in the region, whether in UAE, whether in Egypt, whether in Jordan. And we asked a big question. Is there another manufacturer in Egypt want things from Sari? Is there another manufacturer in Pakistan want something from Egypt? And the answer was yes. And we said, how can we connect all the region within one unified supply chain? So if you are a manufacturer, want a raw material across the region, you have the access. And when you have an end product, you can also have access to the retail shelf easily. And we think in 5-10 years, if you love chocolate and you have a specific recipe, you only need the recipe. You don't need to build the infrastructure. You would come to Sari, we go to the chocolatier manufacturer, they would produce that to you. We do the distribution, and you have your own royalty as someone that have recipe or flavor. So I think we moved in different phases. We wanted just to access wholesale, and we found ourselves now disrupting the whole supply chain.
Wow.
So this is Sari in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, yes, tremendous change in the past few years. So you started the Costco model, and now you disrupt the whole supply chain. Good. What has been the most difficult in this journey of huge growth?
Yeah, so when I came from Kareem, it was tapping on digital native customer, those use mobile. For us, when we came, it was across MENA, as about 95% is offline, and about 65% is unorganized. So our mass does not use technology. It's already offline. So we realized from day one, it's not just a new service, but it's a new lifestyle for them. It's a digital transformation. So this is the biggest challenge for us, is how to convince those businesses to drop their norm, drop their pen and paper, and shift to what we're doing. Also, a lot of wholesale, a lot of kind of retail in here in traditional trade is built on family and relationship and blood. And when you go say, drop that, come to me for efficiency, it requires a lot of convincing, a lot of change, a lot of reason for them to come for you. So that was the biggest buffer. Then at the second layer, if you go to Egypt, you're talking to all Egyptian, one language, kind of similar behavior. Here in Saudi, as a businesses, is a fragmented. So you have Saudi businesses, you have Indian, so we have almost 10 nationality, 10 different languages. And that was also one of the biggest challenge in how can we personalize the experience for all these fragmented small niches and ensure they get the same experience. So that were kind of two big item. The third, there wasn't actually someone to copy or mirror, neither globally nor locally. So we are a first mover here in the region, and there isn't player doing exactly what we're doing globally, and that made it difficult because you have to be the one that make mistakes and learn from them, and make it easier to the one kind of after you to kind of learn. So we're the one who's doing the playbook. So that was actually also very difficult, and you need to have spirit for trial and error.
Yes. So you're trailblazing for the whole supply chain business.
Exactly.
Given the difficulty of, people are not used to online, most of them are offline. Given the difficulty of there's very fragmented, so you need to have personalized, customized experience for all the different subgroups.
Yeah.
And how do you figure out what to do next? Because as you said yourself, you're creating the playbook.
Yeah, I think you need to have the composer. You have to be patient, and when you look at adaptation curve, it doesn't have as a big bang from day one. So you need to capture the early kind of adapter people that will believe in you, and wait for that. They call it crossing the chasm.
Yes.
So you need for the chasm. So for us, always was looking for the early adopter, being obsessed with them, building the right product, until we reached that chasm and we crossed it. And now we found ourselves with kind of the late, early majority. And now we're thinking, how can we build a product that they shouldn't even think about leaving us, or they shouldn't be even thinking about supply chain solution. It becomes autonomous, it becomes part of their life. And that's also a challenge, is not just to start, but also build sustainable business. And that's one of our focus right now as a growth company, is how can we build a sustainable business that gives continuous add value, not just capture a small piece of the business or small piece of the value, but more of a value pyramid, and how can we support going forward.
Right, it's about creating an entire ecosystem and supporting all the business to grow. I was on your website, you mentioned about several differentiators like best price, delivery in 24 hours. How do you guarantee that all of those things are true, especially as you continue to grow?
Yeah, so we have the internal kind of governance as a team, as well the experience to ensure that we're delivering on that promise. We build those capability internally before we start communicating them. And also one of our objective is how can we disrupt those promises with the new promises in the future that's more challenging. So why 24 hour? How can we do it same day delivery? And if we say best prices, are we giving them the best margin as a retail, even if we are best price? And if someone give better price, how can we sustain that? How can we make it? Because if you give the best price, but it's not harmful to the manufacturer, that's a good thing. But sometimes it's a best price that also disruptive to manufacturer, who is our customers. When we look to other players, for example, wholesaler, the manufacturers, they're not customer. They buy and they resell. For us, no, we're a marketplace. We need to ensure that manufacturer also have the good experience through these kind of journeys. So we're not also focusing on the customer best prices and fast delivery, but we ensure that for the manufacturer that the best prices doesn't violate your kind of profitability. And also we build the infrastructure for you to deliver fast, not just to tell you deliver fast only. So it's a two-sided platform for us, and we try to uplift everyone to give the right experience.
You said you build the infrastructure for you to deliver faster. What kind of infrastructure are you building?
So manufacturer used to go and buy a car, they would go rent a warehouse, Sometimes they go to a production line and do it. Now we would give you end-to-end services. So if you want to come, we can give you the vehicles. If you don't have a warehouse, we have a network of warehouses where you can take a place. If you have a need for a production line, we can go to some of the manufacturer and see underutilized production line, and they can help you with there. If you're importing a product and raw material, we have partner that can help you with the clearance and cargo and all these kind of ecosystem. So that's the help we help you with. Then distribution, that's our bread and butter. And how can we help you distribute better? How can we let you get the right data? How can we help you in your next sale and your product? Because as a manufacturer, you will end up with a quantity of product, but in the future, you want to think about a new product. And without having the right data, you don't know, you're shooting in the dark.
Yes.
So for us, we need to give you the right guidance, what's working well, what's not working well, and help you in the future and also growing your business.
Yes, it's about empowering the business owner to make smarter and more efficient decisions.
And being a regional player is like a turnkey. You want to work here in Dammam, that's doable. If you want to go to Riyadh tomorrow, we give you that access. You want to go to Jeddah, we give you. You want to go to Egypt, Pakistan, all that kind of digital distribution as a network across the region, even at a country level or at a regional level, is also an advantage that we want to give you as a business.
Right, right. And then it's embodied by your decision to lead, startup seed rounds in other regions, like in Egypt, in Pakistan.
Sure.
So is your vision to expand throughout the MENA region? What's the mission and vision for Sari in the next 5 to 10 years?
So the more we talk to people in emerging market in Egypt, in Colombia, and all these countries, we see similar problem, similar issues. And initially we're starting to think, what are the markets that want to pull Sari rather than Sari push itself? And we saw markets like Egypt and Pakistan where manufacturer already exist here and exist in those markets and tell us, come with us to that market and we'll help you to grow and kind of reach the market. So that was our first point. But in the future, if we found as well synergy with other emerging markets globally, we would kind of consider that and go for it. We believe Sari could be one day the largest digital supply chain network across emerging market. So if you're a brand coming from the US, you don't need to talk to 50 distributor and 1,000 of wholesaler. You just would talk to one person and that help you through reaching that market seamlessly.
That's a great service. Yes, because rather than talking to 100 different distributors, they just talk to Sari and then all the problems and trouble are solved.
True, and we're not going for the big customer, we're going for the long tail. That's already expensive, is not efficient, and you would rather someone else to do it. You can keep your key account, we'll help you go to reach the market as a long tail. Another kind of focus of us is not to be a product company, but also to be a service company. We already have our own cashier service on the retail. So for you now, you can buy products and then use our technology to do a checkout and payment and services and have a lending and financial services to you. If your air conditioner broke, you can order that service come to fix your kind of facility. So we want to do 360 coverage from you buying from our supply chain, but also there is a supply chain of services that we want to kind of tap into the future.
Wow, so it's not just product, but services as well. It's a 360 solution. Whatever you need, Sari help you take care.
And there are already technology available as an Internet of Things, as a sensor you would put, that's not expensive anymore, that would monitor the light, monitor the electricity, monitor the fridge. And we found almost 20 to 30% of the cost we pay on a monthly level is electricity kind of bill. So if you optimize what time they close the light, what time they kind of lower the kind of, by understanding the footfall on the retail. Also, that's a key. So for us, is not to help you buy things, but help you grow efficiently. So that's our mission going forward.
Wow, it's a big mission and lots to do to do it well. And then you mentioned, I think Sari is in a unique position because now you're expanding not just through verticals, through region, but also through service. And you mentioned earlier, it's not just about the best price. You know, who's your customer? You want every stakeholder in the ecosystem to get value out of it.
Sure.
How are you ensuring that? Because it's a hard task to do because there are many different players, everyone wants slightly different things, and then you want to create an ecosystem where everyone feels empowered and it's a strategic partnership for everyone who participates.
Yeah, look, I think from competition and from customer perspective, our focus is to understand what are the friction, what are the pain for the customer, and try to solve them and be focused on that. Our objective since day one, we built a lightweight asset solution. We built an ecosystem, and we want to ensure that we're giving that one-stop shop experience for everyone as a seller and as a buyer. We are in a unique position because we're not just a SaaS company. We're going and saying, subscribe with us and get. No, we are in the ground. We are helping manufacture. We are operating our warehouses. We are overseeing the delivery. So we have a skin in the game. We're not just a SaaS where we tell you, try us and maybe you reach. So we already bridging the gap of something that does not exist. And we know we have that unique selling kind of proposition that's very difficult to imitate. And we're doubling down on these difficult things because not everyone daring to kind of go and do them. And hopefully that gives us the right defensibility. Again, we always try to cannibalize ourselves before anyone will kind of look at the services we're doing. So we're always challenging what we're doing and creating that change and promise going forward. There will be a kind of mistake here and there, and we're fine with it because that's part of the learning and the experience we're going through.
Yes, I like what you said. It's about building your own moat, right? The more difficult you double down on the difficult things, the harder for any competitors to come in and disrupt. And then you try to disrupt yourself before anyone else
Absolutely.
does. And as the ambition of Sari and you as the co-founder and CEO, you have many different priorities every day. How do you decide on what are the things you focus on, and how do you delegate, how do you create a team and a culture so that the entire company go towards one goal?
Yeah, I think my focus continue to be more a vision futuristic. The more the company grow, the more the talent we attract, the more I get involved with the day-to-day. The more I focus on 2-3 years, what's gonna happen. And the team would focus in 6 months, others would focus in a year. And my objective is to be in the presence of 2 years and tell them and go backward and see if we did this decision, it's probably going to impact us in 2 years from now. And that's my whole obsession, and understanding those small decisions in day-to-day compound to 2 years kind of success. So that's my scope as a CEO. But on a daily level, because I came from operation background, I am more an operator, so I push also kind of the operation, which is our core business. Also as a kind of a company that product driven and customer obsessed, also we're ensuring that we have the right experience, we have the right kind of deliverable for our customer. But at the end of the day, my scope is going to the future, ensuring that our roadmap delivering to that. And finally, I think culture. Are we building the right culture for the people to thrive, to be added value to the company or not? And that's, I think, a very challenging things to build.
It really is. because culture is not just what you say, it's what you do.
Exactly.
And the core team, the DNA, and what you do, everyone emulates.
Absolutely. It is. Culture is also very hard things to imitate, and you need to kind of cultivate and ensure protected as you go. And that's one of our focus as a team, as well as a leader, to ensure the value embedded within everyone and getting protected as we go.
Yes, yes. You mentioned about your core scope is looking at the future 2 year and work backwards. What are the decisions you need to arrive there? How do you see the 2 year mark? What do you do on a daily basis? What activities do you engage in? Do you not engage in to have the clarity of mind to see the future and then work backwards to communicate to the team?
I think you need to expose yourself to a lot of literature in terms of reading, in terms of material, viewing other parallel markets, how are they operating, what are adjacent markets similar to your characteristic, understand trend, understand macro trends, and because everyone focus on what is my task tomorrow. My job is to look at macro trends and understand, will those have a ripple effect on what I'm doing in 6 months from now? For example, inflation, how inflation will impact us. How can we maneuver around inflation? Will people be more price sensitive? Will quantity of ordering decrease? So meaning there will be lower basket but maybe higher frequency because there isn't a cash flow on the market. So all these kind of things you need to be 6 months or 2 years ahead in terms of anticipation, because if you are obsessed with day to day, you don't anticipate any change in behavior. So my job is to say, if you are optimizing for a bigger basket, don't expect that in the next 18 months, because people will start lower their spending, but they will have higher frequency. If you are helping the retailer to buy larger quantity, I don't think that's gonna work in the next 18 months. Probably help them how can to have a cash flow solutions, have reliability, but don't kind of offload it on their shelf, because you will have a waste, because customer won't come and buy that quantity. So you need to understand the trends. You need to understand how the world's gonna work, and then have your own hypothesis. At the end of the day is not 100%, but you kind of maximize the probability by understanding all these kind of elements and components.
It's almost like playing the role of a chief economist, seeing the future. And then the best thing is you are the one who's doing it also, so that you connect the dots better than anyone else.
Exactly. That's my job, is to actually understand how the economy is going to work at a macro level, at a micro level, and how my company fit in that equation. Because company will succeed if they position themselves in a tailwind. And if there is a tailwind, it will push you with minimum energy as a company. But if you're going against the wind, and that will create a lot of buffer, a lot of burn, a lot of challenge. So my job as a captain is to gauge the ship in the right direction, ensuring that tailwind continuously in our back and pushing us efficiently going forward.
Yes, when you mention the word tailwind, I imagine you as a captain steering the ship. So that's literally, capturing the tailwind. I think, as Warren Buffett said, even if you're a good swimmer, you want to swim with the tide, not against the tide.
Absolutely.
And the second key component, which you touch upon, is about culture. And you are the captain, you're steering the ship. What kind of culture are you instilling in Sari, and how are you creating it so that everyone feel empowered, similar to how you empower everyone in the ecosystem?
Yeah, I think it's need to be driven about what do you believe and what are the values that you kind of embodying every day on the business. One of the first principle for us, we are result oriented. So we don't care if you come to the office at 9 a.m. or not. We are kind of result driven. So that's one key. Two, it's about resilience, the grit is not about just passion, because passion don't give results. That passion has to be combined with resilience and continuity and kind of strong work. Also kind of trust and collaboration, because there will be a lot of kind of lone wolf coming in the business, and they are rock star in their businesses before, and they want to continue to be that lone wolf doing their own things. Your job to ensure that they are connected, they're molded within everyone, and they maximize kind of the performance. I used to be in previous company, there is something called the bar raiser.
The bar raiser.
So my job was in previous company is to be the bar raiser, to go and challenge everyone to be the bar raiser. The same thing here I would do in Sary is, if an area that underperforming, we don't go and say you're underperforming. We will try to perform that with them and show them that we can increase the bar and set the new bar for them to continue building and having that. So our job is to challenge, to create the right context and avoid kind of sense of micromanagement, and have the balance between that autonomy and kind of managing the context overall. But our job is always to be the bar raiser and trying to push everyone to excel.
The bar raiser. I feel you're doing it for this show. You're raising the bar of Love and Life show in the Middle East. So thank you for bringing that bar everywhere you go. You mentioned about passion is not enough. You know, you need resilience. And I was reminded of a trainer who told me, remove all emotion you have with exercise. You know, you want to, if you don't want to exercise, still go and do exercise. You know, that's the resilience. What kind of, you know, people or events or milestones in your life have influenced and has distilled that philosophy in you to have that growth and resilience?
Yeah, I think even growing up here in Dammam and going to the public school, then going to scholarship, and as a story, it's always kind of the underdog. So being that, give you that, I think Sequoia said, we hire the insecure because always they're going to go to the extra mile. And startup in nature, they are kind of cornered animals, so they always push and try to find a way. So through my life, I was not in the front and center of the kind of the circle, and that always pushed me to go to the extra mile and push myself in how to build that edge and build that kind of competitiveness. Even I think 2-3 years when we were in an accelerator here in Saudi, there were 10 companies selected, and when they did a survey, out of those 10 companies, by the demo day and by the judges and by the participant, we ranked the lowest out of those 10. No one expected that we will prevail, and that was before our pre-seed. Now, out of those 10, only 2 companies remain operating. One is still at a seed. We are almost now at a Series C. So being the underdog, being the underestimated was always the norm for me. And sometimes that challenging, sometimes that always put a pressure for you to put 200%. Also is good because you're not on the spotlight. You enjoy working, you enjoy building, you enjoy focusing on the things. A lot of people thinking me being in the spotlight is something that I would love, other people would enjoy, but that brings me to be the center of kind of or a vocal point of community, and that's not my normal appetite. I've been always an underdog that always thought to be not winning, and that's I always be a challenger for that kind of thoughts. So that I think build the resilience, build the stamina, and not to kind of give up, but try to maneuver, build the right solution, and grow up with that kind of mindset. So that's how I'm living through that.
Wow. You know, the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, he was also one of those lowest ranking kids, and look at where he is now. Do you think is the not being in the spotlight is what you prefer, or is just the way it is, and then it happens to push you to want to try harder?
I think if you are not in the spotlight for a long time, you don't become a spotlight chaser. So you don't go for these things, and you don't see your value in being in the spotlight. You think that's just a lag measure, or that's an outcome. And you continue focusing on doing the right things and focusing on building something that has kind of intrinsic value in what you do. And that comes by product.
Yes.
A lot of people have the wrong priority. They would go for the spotlight because that would give them intrinsic value rather than focusing on the building. And that create that halo, create that kind of things that might deceive a lot of people.
Yes.
And their value on what they're doing. And we try to kind of choose the right platform, the right message, the right kind of communication. But again, it's always been the right venue for me to focus on building and trying to solve things rather than just going and talking all about kind of what are we going to do. Again, being that challenger is kind of motivating. And one of the things that I tell the employee is there is someone, because we are a big company now, there is someone that self-motivated to come cannibalize what we're doing, because we are now the norm. Now we're the norm. We are the authoritative kind of company now.
Yes.
We are the ones setting the norm. So there is someone that have kind of heat and kind of self-motivation to ensure that we are kind of disrupted. So we need to be disrupted within and ensure that we're always on top of what we're doing.
Yes, I love what you said about focusing on building the intrinsic value rather than how it's being perceived. Because I feel we as human beings, sometimes because of the place we sit, we get more credit than we deserve. Sometimes we get less credit, but it's about at the end of the day when we're with ourselves, how do we regard what we're building? And it's hard. How do you do it? Do you meditate? Do you be away from people? What's your ritual to cultivate that sense of center within you?
I would love to have the luxury to kind of meditate. I always say when I probably retire, I'll kind of redeem all these all that burnouts through long-term meditation. But I think with time I start building the control where I isolate myself and create that life-work balance. So when I go home, I try to kind of be the father rather than the CEO, be with my family, with my wife, with the kids, and ensure that the work do not spill to that life. And that give you kind of peace and recharge on a daily basis to come back and try to perform as a better kind of a CEO. So I think being a normal father and kind of a family person and disconnected and ensuring you're kind of doing all your things properly at home give you that kind of peacefulness to come back and try to kind of operate. But I think one of the things that I focus on is delegation. Give people other kind of empowerment, focus on the right things rather than to be overwhelmed. But especially now on the kind of, I would say, the downturn, the difficult times, it's not about even physical performance. Now it's about mental performance.
Yes.
And for me, I always go to the extreme. I think what is the worst going to happen? So I think some sense of meditation is going to the extreme. Is like, what is the extreme? It's death. Probably if you die, what will happen. And I think one of the meditating point for me is to understand what are the repercussions of this. What will happen after? Is it the final point? Is death or kind of failure? And try to understand, will I be in that phase or am I in an earlier phase? Is it that greater in that kind of a stage? So I think I do a lot of deep thinking and understanding the impact of that problem. Sometimes that problem looks at as a mountain, but is not as big as this. So I try to isolate the issue, understand a life as a journey.
Yes.
And I think when I look and walk and see in the street, and this earth is almost kind of 30 million kind of years, you wouldn't remember the people that 100 years ago walking the street. So I think zooming out from your life, understanding you're nobody, is a good kind of meditation point for you to understand that you're probably dent on that kind of the world history. You're not the center of the world. And that gives you a sense of comfort that your mistake is going to be impactful probably in your small circle, but is not something going to echo through the kind of a human history, which is way bigger than yourself. So I think understanding your real size is also a critical point.
Yes, it takes away from all the
pressure. Burden, exactly.
Yes.
If you think that you are the leader of the ecosystem, and if you do that, all the shame, I think that will be kind of pressuring you every day. But if you realize that you're no one in kind of million years,
yes,
it tells you that you are just another pattern of someone that's trying and cracking the kind of a small opportunity that done by thousands of people, and you have a ratio of failure and success, and you just continue to do your own mission. So that's so that shows you kind of balance, context.
You have a ratio of success and failure, exactly. And you keep trying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you try to maximize the ratio of success and failure?
My goal is to minimize the ratio of failure resulting to success. But even people say if you want to minimize the failure, you need to do more failure to ensure that you're learning. But I think one of the mistaken points with a lot of people starting their businesses is assuming that success is just a chance or it's a luck, is not a cumulative work of years and years. So myself, I started 2 startups before this, and it failed, and then I worked with Kareem, then I came and built that startup. So I already have my fair chance of failing and learning and reapplying what I learned, either in my startup or with my previous companies as a leader. So this kind of accumulative learning is key, that helping you maximize your probabilities in building a successful business in the future.
That's great wisdom for all entrepreneurs. It's okay to fail because in Chinese we say 失败乃成功之母. Failure is the mother of success. So you need to fail to learn and then to get to success.
Yeah, and I think it's about journey. So you don't anticipate that you graduate high school and you go build a business. You can do that, but the probability is very limited. You need to build that experience. You need to get that kind of traction. And there will be a tipping point where you start thinking about building your business. And I think a lot of people ask question, what is the main reason of success in business? And there were kind of sense of agreement, kind of academically and probably professionally, it's about timing. So in terms of your readiness, market readiness, and the capital market readiness, if those get connected, then you have that kind of magic happen.
Yes, it's about aligning all the stars.
Exactly.
It's just not about you or me or the timing.
Exactly.
Everything has to be
Absolutely
ready at the same time. So besides Sary, you're also a father of 3. Congratulations on your little one. And you mentioned about spending time with your kids recharges you. What's your education philosophy, if you want to share with the audience, with your kids?
So I think I don't have that sense of kind of rigid philosophy, but I think from my previous kind of education, it was all about kind of embedding things. I don't intend to do that. I would love to let them experience the wrongs and try to kind of adopt the learning through experience. So I'm trying to ensure that they have the curiosity rather than being a smart, because I think curiosity is the center of characteristic to always ask the right question. And I've been always that person asking the right question rather than having all the answers. And I'm trying to embed that on them and asking all these right questions and have that curiosity as they grow, regardless of what they get in terms of grades or marks. It is a good thing to have, but at the end of the day is, do you have that curiosity? Because if you are driven by grades, if grades goes bad,
yes,
you will lose that kind of energy and intention. So that's I think our philosophy, my wife and I, is to ensure that they're always obsessed with kind of being curious, asking questions, learning. And there isn't one source of learning. There are a lot of sources of learning. And now they are kind of having the experience with the internet to learn by themselves. So I think with having more open world, more connected, they can ask the question and have the answer in a faster manner. So we're teaching them to ask the right question, and in my opinion. The challenging point, they will always kind of ask you very tough question, and you need to be kind of transparent, you need to be honest. I think the biggest challenge is when your kids grow and you are in a more fortunate position, they don't expect failures, because now they are on the hail of assuming everything has to be successful. You are an entrepreneur now, you're doing an interview, you must be successful, so we need all of us to be successful. And I went through that pressure with my father. My father was always pushing, and if I get an A, he wants an A plus, and and always trying to be better than kind of previously. So you will never get the sensation of being complete or success. So you're always being kind of challenged. Now my kids living in that experience and seeing you as an entrepreneur or you being in that position, it might make success way achievable for them in their mindset and get it more commoditized and assume success is just a plug-in kind of thing. And I'm trying to bring them to the sense of reality that it's a very tough thing to do, and you need to build a lot of experience, and then success or it's kind of relative in the future, and then you build the things that you want. I think in the previous generation, success was in a template and it was in a box. Either you need to be an engineer or you need to be a doctor.
Yes, or a lawyer.
So it wasn't occupational.
Yes.
I think the last 10 years and the next 20 years, there is kind of a new direction of being, you need to be an entrepreneur. You need to build your own business to be successful. And I'm worried in 10 years that if they don't want to do that, will they be labeled as a success or not? So I think I'm trying also to ensure that they do what they like and they have that perseverance and have that resilience in doing it, whether it's an entrepreneur or being a soccer player or they're being a doctor. So having that kind of, I think, openness is critical, and success is something that can morph with time.
Yes, yes. I think that's the whole, you touch on the whole mission of Loving Life, which is strong belief that people who pursue their passion can make the world better. It doesn't have to be an entrepreneur. It could be an artist. It could be a firefighter. My son is obsessed with all related firefighting. I think we touch about a lot about what it means to live, what it means to flourish as human being. One final question I have for you. How do you define the success of your life?
Yeah, that's a deep question. I think the success of my life would be doing the right things and having a lasting impact, either in my family or in my society or in my industry as an overall. So I think the lasting impact is a defining for a success. Earlier I mentioned that you probably pass and your impact is minimal on your society or on the history. So my job is maximizing that lasting point. Probably it won't be hundreds of years, but probably tens of years. And that could be on my family, next generation, or even on the industry I'm working with. My nephews and nieces were always thinking when they were brought to life is to be an engineer or doctor. Now some of them in the university and they're thinking, I want to be an entrepreneur. So I think I started a new benchmark on the family.
The
society is that, I think there might be another way to live or to do something professional. So my hope is to create a lasting impact around me within the society or within the industry going forward. So that's, I think, my whole vision. But in a day-to-day level is to have the peace of mind, for sure, and create that balance between work and family. But that's, I would say that's how. The other answer was about why do I exist. I think having that lasting impact.
Lasting impact and peace of mind.
Absolutely.
On a daily basis. Thank you so much, Mohammed. You have undoubtedly raised the bar for Loving Life show, give lasting impact for our team and for our audience.
It was my pleasure and great having you here in Dammam, and I wish you an awesome journey here in Sari.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mohammed.
Thank you.